New episode of Murder Drones. What a perfect opportunity to scrape a few more views out of the bottom of this barrel. Anyways, I'm sure a lot of you remember the video I made a while back reviewing the pilot episode, the one where I basically sang the show's praises and said I couldn't wait to see what comes next. Well, now that episode 2 is actually out, and a slightly disturbing number of you have been asking me to review it, I guess I've got myself an excuse to make a second video. So, was the new episode worth the wait, or did Liam Vickers fail to deliver on yet another promise? How would I know? I'm just a guy with a mic. But anyways, what's up my guys and gals, it's your boy Tyromaniac, back with another smoking hot video, and today, I'm talking back about episode 2 of Murder Drones. Quick heads up, I'm going to be spoiling quite a bit from the new episode for the sake of this review, so go check it out first if you're interested. Link will be in the description. Don't worry if you're too lazy for that though, because I've got you covered anyways. In a world. Alright, fine, jeez. So, Murder Drones takes place somewhere in the future on some random planet that humanity started colonizing. To help with the menial labor, a company named S.C. Johnson, wait, that's not right, J.C. Jensen made a bunch of slave robots called worker drones. Sadly, the humans did what they do best and exterminated all life on the planet, leaving the worker drones on their own to basically carry on without them. All was good until J.C. Jensen sent in a new team of robots called Murder Drones, whose sole purpose in life is to commit mass genocide. This forces the worker drones to build 3 massive doors to protect themselves until the pilot episode, where a worker drone named Uzi and a murder drone named N team up to stop the other murder drones, V and J, from wiping out the rest of the worker drones. With V in bondage, J hitting that afterlife gritty, allegedly, and Uzi banishing herself, quote-unquote, for leading the murder drones to the bunker in the first place, this brings us to episode 2, Heartbeat. Basically, Jay isn't as dead as we thought thanks to something called the Absolute Solver, meaning it's up to Uzi and N to stop her from finishing the job. Anyways, that about does it for my 4th time explaining Murder Drones on this channel, but before I give you my opinion on the new episode, I want to go back and change some things I said about the pilot. First off, my main complaint about the pilot was that, for a horror comedy series, it really wasn't all that funny. I basically said that there weren't any jokes that had me laughing out loud, and while I still kinda stand by that, I'd say it was funnier overall than I originally thought. There were some background details that got a chuckle out of me, and a few jokes that I definitely appreciated, but there was still a decent amount of cringe to sift through. Second, I said there were some minor plot holes that I noticed, but after rewatching I only really found one. It's just kinda weird to me that N was so quick to turn to the worker drone's side, and that Uzi was so quick to trust him after he tried to kill her, not once, but twice. Third, one thing I focused on a lot is how high quality the animation is, which is still true, don't get me wrong, but there were also a few noticeable speed bumps. Jay's legs get a little janky when she walks for some reason, and the water, or I guess oil, physics just kinda look off. Fourth, I think I kinda understated how much I love the show's tone. It's kinda hard to put into words, but the way everything looks so run down and abandoned, the way it's all cast in low lighting, the way the murder drones in action look like angels of death, it all just makes the show that much cooler. Shots like this really are pretty much the whole reason I like Murder Drones. Anyways, that's enough about the pilot, let's get into what you're actually here for, episode 2. Figured I might as well get these out of the way first. For whatever reason, the murder drones just don't have the same coolness factor they did in the pilot. I don't know if it's because they don't do as much cool stuff, or if the Absolute Solver makes them look like oversized Roombas by comparison, but for whatever reason I just didn't get the same Angel of Death vibes from them. Speaking of the Absolute Solver though, the trailer in the first half of the episode built it up as this huge existential threat or some eldritch horror you've never seen before, and yet it got its shit kicked in after its first big fight scene. Don't get me wrong, I'm 98% positive that it's going to come back even stronger in like an episode or two, it's just that it feels like it got beaten a little too easily in this one. Speaking of that final fight though, I did also notice a few minor plot holes in the new episode, mostly while I was trying to figure out why N just up and left before dropping back in at the end. Anyways, the last thing I want to say is that the pacing felt a little off in this one, like everything was being rushed just a teeny bit, especially in the first 5 minutes. That said, I'm not so sure that's a problem with the show's writing, and more just because they crammed so many shots from the trailer into the first couple minutes. Anyways, that about does it for all the criticisms I have. Let's move on to everything else. Gotta say, first thing that caught my eye was the huge upgrade the character models got since the pilot. They're a lot smoother, a lot more reflective, and honestly just a lot more polished in general. Same goes for the animation, which I'd actually say was higher quality on average than the pilot. To be fair, it also had a few noticeable dips in quality, but the weird bits I noticed in the pilot with certain character movements or the oil effects were all fixed, so there's that. The only big oddity I noticed in episode 2 was that one scene where the Absolute Solver used a human, hand, attached to a cable to grab Thad, this guy, and drag him into the darkness. It's kinda hard to explain, but for whatever reason the way the fingers, the cable, and the rest of the hand move just don't line up with each other. Other than that, the animation's a lot more fluid and a bit higher quality overall. Anyways, next thing I've got to mention is the actually pretty decent quality boost the humor got. It still wasn't amazing, but there were actually a few jokes that got me to laugh out loud this time. The scene where N apologized for the untold genocide he committed against the worker drones, and the scene where Khan, Uzi's dad, was at a parent-teacher conference trying to defend his parenting while the teacher's just playing solitaire in his head were probably the best, but they definitely weren't the only ones. Speaking of the comedy though, I mentioned in my LV animation video that I was worried about the show going too far with its humor and completely undermining the darker tone, especially since I thought the darker tone was done better. Well, after watching episode 2, I'd say it's more of a 50-50. There were definitely a few jokes that got thrown in when they didn't need to be, as in every other line of dialogue they gave to the Absolute Solver, but there were also a few serious moments that actually got taken seriously and worked a lot better because of it, so I'd say it ended up balancing pretty well. Even the horror elements worked a bit better in episode 2 than in the pilot. I've talked a lot of smack about the Absolute Solver, but it is honestly a really cool idea, and it adds a lot to the overall darker tone. The fact that it's a tangled mess of different bits and pieces, the idea that every murder drone has one dormant inside them like a ticking time bomb, and its ability to make photorealistic holograms that are realistic enough to trick people into thinking they're real, there's a lot of potential with this thing moving forward. Anyways, it also felt like a lot of characters got a bit more development here than they did in the pilot. It looks like Thad and Doll are actually going to be important to the story after basically being background characters in the pilot, with Doll in particular being the one to keep an eye on. As for Uzi and N, they're the main characters, so no big surprise that they're getting character arcs. It's actually Khan that I think is the interesting one. After the pilot set him out to be nothing more than that guy who worships doors and leaves his daughter to die, it's nice to see him get some actual character development. They show him as a loving father who actually does care about Uzi, even if his own fear, and minor child neglect, gets in the way of protecting her. I mean, to be fair, how would you react if this thing killed half your species, stabbed your daughter, and then just turned to stare at you? Either way, it kinda looks like the character stuff's taking a bit of a backseat to establishing the mystery that's gonna play out over the rest of the season, and honestly I'm here for it. We still don't know how the Absolute Solver works, who these people are, or what the truth about the history behind the worker drones and the murder drones is, so there's a lot of potential to set up something pretty spicy. In the meantime, they're doing a great job at getting people invested, myself included, so they're doing something right. All in all, Glitch has taken some pretty good steps forward with the new episode. On the upside, the character designs, animation, comedy, horror, characters, and mystery all feel a lot more polished. On the downside, the tone kinda fell off, the villain seemed a little weak, and the pacing wasn't amazing. Even with that said though, if the rest of the season ends up on the same level of quality as Heartbeat, I'd be perfectly happy with that. So anyways, that's it for this video, so remember to light up that like button, smoke that subscribe button, drop a big old comment, check out some of the videos on the left, and I will see you guys in the next video.